Yo, welcome to REXTECH, where we spread the good news of the cloud. In today's challenge, we will be creating a games notification app. Now, when it comes to games, it can be any game. It can be NFL, NBA, FIFA, however you want to do it. But for this video, I will be using NBA because that's my favorite sport, right? So we'll be creating this system that will be able to send us notifications to our SMS, phone number, or email. Okay, and the architecture I will be drawing and showing you how we're going to create this thing will be an event-driven architecture. And then afterwards, I can take you to the computer where we can actually do the tutorial from step 1 to conclusion. All right, so first of all, the scenario is that every 2 hours, 3 hours, or at the end of the day, you want to get notifications of the games that are going on, right? So if it's, for me, if it's NBA, if it's one team playing another team, I want to know the final score. I want to know the final score of each quarter. I want to know, there's other information you can get, right? The system we're building, we are going to be querying is asking something. Please give me the information of all the games right now. And then that something is going to send us back information. We're going to process that information. Then we're going to send it to our email, send it to our phone number. Okay. What is that something that we're requesting information from? It is called an API. If you don't know what an API is, check out this video that I have here and you can understand exactly what an API is. But the API I will be interacting with, it's a free one. It's called sportsapi.io. I think that's what it's called. You will learn more about it later. So what we're doing, we have this API here, right? And this API will give us information on NBA games, okay? This is what we're interacting with. Now, behind the API is some back-end system which we don't know anything about, right? Question mark. We don't really care about this back-end system. All we care about is interacting with the API, all right? So we're gonna ask the API, give us games information, give us the information on the games, give us the scores. It's gonna process it and it's gonna send it back to us, okay? So you request and then you get a response. All right, now where does AWS come in, right? There is a service, a specific service that runs code for us, okay? That code we are going to be writing, and that code is going to be responsible for asking the NBA API information on NBA games. And then that code is going to be responsible of getting the information back from the API and then processing it and then sending it to wherever it needs to go to get to our emails or get to our phone numbers, okay? So what is that service that we're going to be using? I'm gonna give you a hint. It is a kind of like a platform that is going to allow us to run code without actually managing the infrastructure. What is it? Lambda. All right. So we're going to be using Lambda, which is a service that allows us to run our code for us without managing infrastructure. So it automatically provisions the compute that is needed to run the code for us. So, and what code are we going to be using? What programming language are we going to be using? Python, just because I freaking love Python. Easy to use and is one of the best languages to use for when you're requesting and manipulating with APIs, all right? So our code is going to be written in Lambda, somewhere here, boom, boom, boom. This is where our logic is going to be written. And that logic is going to be going to the API and asking the question, give me the information for the game score. And it's gonna respond back with the game score, okay? When it responds back, it actually responds back with it comes in a format that doesn't make any sense. It's called a JSON object, okay? Once our code gets the JSON object, we need to transform it into a human readable form. So we can send it to your phone number, send it to your email in a way that you can read it and understand it. So we're going to be transforming the data that comes back from the API and we're going to be making it into a human readable form. Then we're going to be sending it to something. That something is going to take care of sending the information to your email or your SMS. What is that something? There is a specific service on AWS that is made for getting information and then just pushing it out to whoever is subscribed to it. When I say subscribe, you're gonna understand in just a moment. That service is called SNS, so Simple Notification Service, because it sends notifications to whoever is subscribed to it. We call it a pub-sub service. Pub is publisher, sub is subscriber. So now check this out. We get the information, we transform it, then we send it to SNS. This is SNS. What SNS does, it creates a topic, right? So SNS topic. Whatever is published to that topic, whoever is subscribed to the topic is going to be your email or it's going to be SMS. You're going to subscribe to this topic, okay? Once you subscribe to the topic, then this topic is going to be able to send the information to whoever subscribed to it. It could be more than one SMS number. It could be another email. It could be multiple emails, right? The same way when you subscribe to those email listings, and whenever the person who owns the email listings decides to push something out, it goes out to everybody who is subscribed. Same thing here. Whatever is subscribed to the topic for SNS, it is going to automatically push to it. Now, how often is this going to run? How do you make this run every second, every minute, every hour, right? So you have to schedule this in some way, right? You want it to go to your email, you want it to go to your phone number, but how do we make this automatically run at a scheduled time? They have a specific service on AWS, again, called EventBridge. With EventBridge, what are you doing? You create a rule and you create something like a cron job. They call it a cron job. It's a scheduler. We create the schedule and tell it, I want you to run this or trigger this solution at a specific time, at a specific date, at this interval, whatever. So this is EventBridge, and it creates a rule, some rule here, right? And we say we want this rule to run every 2 hours. So I may say, I want you to send me a notification for all the games from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next day. That's the schedule. And I want you to send it to me every 2 hours. So by 9 a.m., 11 a.m., we can schedule that. When we schedule it, right? Schedule, whatever, however you spell schedule, right? This thing, EventBridge, is going to be in charge of triggering this whole thing. Well, actually, all it does is it triggers this. When it triggers this, the Lambda function, we call it invoke, is going to invoke the Lambda function. Once it invokes this at that specific time, then this whole workflow, asking for the games, getting the games information, transforming it, sending it to SNS, SNS sending it to our email address and phone number, is automatically going to run. That's why it's called event-driven architecture, because after this event, the scheduler is kicked off. When this Lambda function is kicked off also, and it does whatever it needs to do, once it gets the information, it also kicks off this and also kicks off this. So it's based off of an event. It automatically runs for us. So we could be asleep, we could be working throughout the day. This is happening without any manual effort. It's event driven. So this is what we're going to be building, and it's not that tough. It's pretty simple, but I feel it's a cool project for us to be able to do, just for you to understand how to create event driven architectures, how to use serverless services on AWS, and also use external APIs. So if you understand this, we're basically done. You just have to build it on AWS now. All right. This is a more, I guess, structured and more good looking image of the architecture that we'll be building than what was on the whiteboard, right? So we have EventBridge here, Lambda here, and SNS, kind of broken it down into these three different uses, or I guess characterizations of these three services that we'll be using. All right, so we have a schedule rule, right? Whatever we want to schedule it as, right? Running this whole system at whatever time you decide. And then we have a Lambda function that runs our code, okay? This Lambda function using the Lambda service is going to be making a request to the API. It's actually called the sportsdata.io API, okay? And then we have a backend system in the back, which we don't really care about. And then it's going to respond back to Lambda, to our Lambda function, right? And we're going to process, transform the information and make it into a human readable form. Then we are going to publish that information into this SNS topic using the SNS service. And then once the email address or phone number is subscribed to the topic, then the topic has whatever you call permissions to be able to then send the information that was published to it to all the subscribers. So this is a system that we'll be building. If you understand this, again, this will be so easy for you to create, as we'll be doing it in the AWS console to kind of make it easier for you to be able to follow through. All right, let's go. We are in our management console and we are going to create our SNS topic. So we are going to go to the SNS service, type SNS at the top left in the search bar and click simple notification service. Then we're going to go to topics to the left and we're going to go to create topic, and I'm going to make this standard. I'm going to name this topic, I already have it here, GD topic, stands for game day topic. Just make it simple. And then I scroll down and you're going to click create topic, right? All this other stuff you just leave default. Create topic. Okay, now we have a topic, right? Now, do you remember? Okay, we have this topic here, but we need to subscribe these to the topic first to give it access to allow it to be able to send the information to them, to our email, to our SNS, to our phone number, right? So we have to give it that functionality first. So we have to subscribe to it. So I'm going to subscribe my email to this topic that we just created. So we're going to either click here to create subscription or click here to create subscription. Then we're going to say email, because I'm just going to make this easy and use my email. And we're going to type an email. I have my email here already. You can type in your email or whatever. Please don't spam me. We're going to click create subscription. All right, once we create that, just like anytime you're subscribing to anything, you have to actually accept the subscription. So you have to go to your email. Then it says confirmation, confirm. And I go back to this and I go to GD topic, game day topic. I see that my email has subscribed status confirm. Boom. So that's the easy step. Now we've created a topic. We know that whatever is published to this topic, it will automatically be pushed to my email address because my email address is subscribed to the topic. Okay? Now we need to create a role on the Lambda function, which is, a role is something that gives the Lambda function permissions to be able to do certain things, right? This Lambda function doesn't automatically have rights to be able to push or publish stuff to the SNS topic. You actually have to create a policy that allows the Lambda function to be able to publish to the SNS topic. Okay, so I'm going to type IAM and actually open that in a new tab, and this is Identity and Access Management Service, and this is where we go to give people permissions to do certain things. Okay, so we need to go to policies, and then we need to create a policy. And we are going to choose the service which we want to apply this policy to. Right, so it says specify what actions can be performed in a specific resource in a service. So we are going to be specifying SNS, and we're going to select JSON here. And for this code, we are going to go to our repo, and we're going to head to policies, and we're going to head to GD SNS policy. GD is game day. Copy this, and we are going to, where is it? Paste it in here. And what we need to do is change the ARN of our SNS topic. All right, so you have to add the region and the account number. So if you just go back to your SNS topic, we can just copy this. And this is our ARN. And we're going to paste it here inside the double quotes. Okay, make sure it's inside the double quotes now. All right, because this code stuff, it takes it and reads it literally. So inside the quotes, you put the ARN and scroll down. And what this is saying is, hey, we are going to allow SNS publish. The action is we're going to allow whoever this policy is attached to, right, to publish information or whatever it needs to this specific resource. This resource is our GD topic. So we are allowing people to publish, or services or whatever, whoever this is attached to the resource of our GD topic. Okay, so we're giving them permissions to publish to our topic. Scroll down, click next, and policy name, we're just gonna name it what we have here. Paste it here, remove the JSON, policy, scroll down, whatever, create policy. Okay, so we created our policy. Then we need to create a role. This role is what is going to be attached to the Lambda. The role gives it temporary permissions to be able to do certain things. And in that role is going to have the policy which we just created that gives it permissions to be able to publish to the SNS topic. But it's also going to have another policy, which is one that AWS already created. So it comes with your account where you created. You have to create it yourself. And so we're going to add those two policies that gives the Lambda function permissions to publish to this, and it also gives it permissions to be able to send some information to CloudWatch. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to go to roles. We're going to go to create role, and we're going to say AWS service, and we're going to select the service is Lambda, and we're going to go to next, and we're going to search for the GD SNS policy which we created. We're going to select that. We're also going to select another one. Search Lambda, and we're going to select this basic execution role. What is in the basic execution role? And you see it's AWS managed, so AWS created this. It comes automatically. By default, I did not create this. And it just allows us to be able to send logs to CloudWatch to be able to monitor and see what's going on when we actually run our Lambda function. But we won't focus on that too much right now, but we select these two, basic execution role and that GD SNS policy. We're going to say next. And then we're going to name this, what are we going to name this? GD underscore Lambda underscore role. All right. Game day, Lambda underscore role. And we're doing a trust policy. We won't get too deep into that. And these are the two policies that we are attaching to this role. Okay, create role. All right, and that is the role that we'll be using when we go and create our Lambda function. We will attach it to our Lambda function, which will give it access to be able to publish to our SNS topic. All right, okay. Now it's time to create our Lambda function. We are at the default management console home. We're going to click Lambda. We're going to head to the service, and we're going to create a function. And we're going to say author from scratch. And I am going to name this function something easy, GD notifications for game day notifications. And we're going to be using Python. All right, so we're cloud engineers, we're learning, we're growing. We need to know how to code. So I'm going to be using Python because, that's just my preferred language. If you don't know Python, I'm sorry for you. This is going to be tough. But I'm going to explain the code, so hopefully you're able to understand what's going on. So now, I can leave this as default. We go to permissions, and we're going to choose use existing role. And remember that role that we created before? What is it called? I think it was called GD again. Oh, actually, I have to search it. GD Lambda role. Right, now we're going to create function. All right, so we've created this function, and oh, this is cool. They're using the Visual Studio layout for managing your Lambda function. This is pretty sick. All right, so this is where our code is going to be. I'm going to close this, delete this. Now we actually need to get the code for our Lambda function. We can go to our Git repo and go to source and go to GD notifications. We're going to copy the code here. And if you don't understand this Python stuff, I'm sorry for you. We're cloud engineers. We're supposed to know how to at least read and understand this code. But now I'll explain it to you in a bit. So I copy that and pasted it here. Then we're going to publish it. Oh, well, not publish it. We're actually going to deploy it. Deploy. We have our code here. Now remember, this Lambda function is going to be making those requests to sportsdata.io API. Now, when we create an account there, right, that was actually a prerequisite to this project, we actually get a key. And that a key is assigned to our account, right? So whenever we're making those requests, we need that key, okay, to show that, this is who we are. And that key, we don't want to hard code that inside the Lambda function. So we're going to be utilizing or leveraging environment variables, okay? So the Lambda function will be able to pull this key that is stored somewhere else and use it when it runs, right? So we don't have to hard code it inside here. Another environment variable that we'll be using is the SNS topic ARN. ARN stands for Amazon Resource Name, right? That is a specific identifiable name for a resource on AWS. So our SNS topic that we created has a specific ARN, and we also don't want to hard code that inside here for security best practices. So we're going to be using environment variables. So first, we actually need to go and get our API key from our account at sportsdata.io. You go to your account and you're going to see the key here. I will blur mine out, hopefully, so you won't be able to see it. Configuration, and we're going to go to environmental variables. We're going to go to edit, and we're going to add environmental variable. And the first one is going to be, the key is going to be NBA API key, and I'm going to copy it from here, paste it here, and click save. Let's add another one. The next one I'm going to add is the SNS topic. And the SNS topic is, I have to actually go to my SNS. I'll open this in a different link. Go to topics, go to GD topics, and you see the ARN right here. This number just basically identifies a resource on AWS. All right, we're gonna say save. All right, to explain the code, I'm going to go through this in a high level, not going to go too deep into the weeds because, you know, you're supposed to know the basics of Python by now, right? This is not a Python teaching class, okay? So we start with some inputs for some libraries. This OS library allows us to access the environmental variables, the NBA API key variable, and the SNS topic ARN environment variable. We talk about that later. And then we have JSON, right? This JSON allows us to parse the response that we would get from the API. So that gibberish, which we're not going to understand, and we're going to change into human readable form, it comes in a JSON object, okay? Then we have this URL lib library, which we'll be using to make the request to the API. Boto3 allows us to interact with AWS service, such as SNS and anything else. And then the date and import time, this just allows us to manipulate and use the current date now. Okay, because each day, right, the date changes. So the Lambda function needs to be able to get the current date. So we get that from this library. So we're going to scroll down all the way to the Lambda handler, which is a function in this Python code. So whenever this Lambda function is invoked, we always start in the Lambda handler function. That's where it starts to execute from. So what the heck is actually happening here? So as it says, we're getting the environment variables. So we have the os.getEnvironment, we're getting the NBA API key and the SNS topic ARN stored in our environment variables, and we're storing it in these variables locally in the Lambda function. And then we initialize a SNS client to be able to send the notifications to the SNS using the ARN, environment variable ARN. Okay, then we have to adjust for central time. So I'm in the central time. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're getting the current time now, but it's in UTC mode. It's in UTC configuration. We need to convert that to central time. If you're in Eastern time, I think this would be like 5 hours equals 5. But that's what we're doing here, converting it into the time now, and then we store it into today underscore date variable, right? And then we keep it in this format: year, month, and day. This will come in handy later, and I'll show you how and why we'll use this. This print statement is just fetching games for date. Don't really need that, but we're just printing that to the console. Right, so the API URL. This is the format of the API URL, okay? All right. And where did I get that from? I got that from the sportsdata.io. There's many different endpoints. You can just go there and search and find which one you want. Mine, I'm getting the games by date. So this is live game updates, and it gives you all the information like the channel that is being played on and also the different scores for each quarter. Now, the API URL is this format, and it also takes today's date, and it takes the API key at the end. So what we're doing here is we're manipulating the string, and we're adding today's date and the API key into this variable called API underscore URL. Now today's date is going to be dynamic, right? Because every single day, the date is going to change. That's why we're doing this calculation up here and getting the current date in this format. The API key doesn't change, but we need to be able to fetch that information from the environment variable. That's why we're putting it inside here. So if someone reads this code, they don't know what my API key is because it's being fetched from an environment variable. Okay, so we're not hard coding the API key into here. Now, after we get that JSON response and we store it inside data, then we filter for the final games, right? We only want the games from the response that are final. Okay, so we have this final games and we're storing it inside this variable called finals games, and it's going to filter the games to include only those that are final, right? The status equals final. Okay, then we need to format the result. So format the result has to do with making this into human readable form. All right, so we have an entire different function that is going to be doing this and taking care of that for us. Okay, so the results that we get from the final games, we format the results into and store it inside the messages. So how does that JSON object look? It looks like this. Okay, see, this looks kind of crazy. We need to actually go through this mentally, like go through each one of this and try and figure out where and what information we want. Okay, so we see we have the home team here, and then we have the away team, and then you see Cleveland, ID 10, whatever, channel, NBA, attendance. All this stuff is what we're going to be manipulating, and we can manipulate that with Python. So this final games variable here, each game inside there, that's what we're passing inside the format game data, and then we're storing it inside messages. So let's go up to see what the heck is happening here in this format game data function. So first off, we are extracting certain information from the object. Okay, so we have status, away team, home team, final score, start time, channel, and so we're getting it from that game object. Okay, so then we're just breaking it up, you know, whatever was inside that game object, we're breaking it up and storing it inside a specific variable. This is where we are actually putting this into human readable form, which is going to be sent to the SNS. So we check the status and see if it's final, and then we return the information like game status, away team versus home team. This is just strings that we're manipulating that is going to be printed out. And then if its status is in progress, then that's different, right? We only want the final games, right? But we still want some information if it's in progress. And if not, then we just say details are unavailable at this time for this game. All right. And in each of these if statements, we're going to be returning. So return, return, return. Once we return back over here, this is now when we need to publish that data, publish that information that we just manipulated in string format to the SNS topic. And this is actually going to be sent to our email, to our SMS. So we have the topic ARN, which is the SNS topic ARN. We have the message, the final message that is from here, right? We're actually just joining all of it together to make it into, you know, one string. And then we have the subject NBA game scores. That's what the subject we're going to be using when we send it to our email. And then it's going to be printed to the console here that says, hey, it was published to the SNS successfully. And if not, we catch the errors. All right. So that's basically what's happening. We're making a request to sportsdata.api in our code. And then the response that we get back, we're just going to manipulate it and pick out the information that we want and change it into some strings that actually make sense, that we can read it. And then when we store it, we're going to actually publish that to the SNS topic. And then that is how we actually get the information. All right, let's test this thing out and see if it actually works before we even think about including EventBridge. Okay, so to test, we are going to, right now we're at our code. We're going to go to test here. And we're going to create test. Let's just call it test 1. Leave this as default. And we're going to save this test. And then we're going to actually test it. See what happens. All right. Data processed and sent to SNS. Okay, cool. So if I go to my email, I should be able to see some game scores. Oh, all right. Game status scheduled Denver versus Cleveland. So this is by 12 a.m. in the morning. So obviously there is no game. So details are unavailable at this moment. Details are unavailable at this moment. But these are the games that are scheduled for today. Okay, so it's working. Now we just need to schedule this thing with EventBridge. So we just finished creating this part of the system. Now we need to use EventBridge to create a scheduled rule that is going to kick off and invoke this Lambda function. So this entire solution can happen. Okay, so let's head to EventBridge. Yes, sir. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to create a rule. Name this rule GD rule. I already have it here. We're going to go to schedule, right? Because we want to schedule this now. Continue to EventBridge scheduler. Then we're going to scroll down. This is going to be reoccurring. So we're going to go to reoccurring schedule, and it has this cron-based schedule. What is cron-based schedule? This allows you to, schedule a set using a cron expression. Cron expressions are hard for you to really understand. A lot of people don't really get it. So what I do is I go to ChatGPT and I just generate a cron job expression and I test it out. So what we want to do is we say we want this to run starting from 9 o'clock in the morning, run every 2 hours, and then stop at 2 a.m. the next day. So what actually is that cron job expression? It is this. It's weird, but you can actually see it here. It says the times that it'll actually run, 2 a.m., 9 a.m., 11 a.m., blah, blah, blah. All right, so what does this expression mean? Let's start from the right. This asterisk just basically means it's gonna run every year. The question mark here is a placeholder, so you can just, don't worry about that. The asterisk here also means every month, every day of the month. And now, this is where it starts getting kind of tricky. So this 9 to 23 is basically 9 a.m. to 23 hour, which is 11 p.m. Okay, and this /2 basically saying it's going to run every 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then when we go over, this 0 to 2 is saying from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. also going to run every 2 hours, right? So this is allowing us to run from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next day. That's how this is working out. All right, we're gonna turn this off, flexible window, scroll down, go to next, and we are going to select, AWS Lambda, because that is what we be invoking. Okay, invoking Lambda function, GD notifications. We don't need a payload, we're just gonna say next, and this is enabled. Scroll down, leave this, whatever, scroll all the way down, and just create a new role for this schedule. I'm gonna go to next, scroll all the way down, and then say create schedule. So we have the rule here. And it's enabled, so you can actually play around with this and make it run in the next minute to test the whole solution out for yourself. I'm just gonna wait for the next 2 hours or the next actual time when this is supposed to run, and now I'll just check my email, and it's expected to be in my email, the information on the games. Okay. All right, y'all, that is it for today's challenge. Thanks for sticking it out with me today. Tomorrow's challenge will be with Alicia, and her YouTube channel will be linked in the description below, along with everybody else. Tomorrow's challenge would include S3, Athena, some other cool stuff. So that's it. This is REXTECH signing out. And of course, make sure to share the good news of the cloud. Later.